Revisiting my dreams with the king.
Countdown, and now it's officially recording. But I haven't started the episode yet. But I'll use some of these type of clips sometimes to put at the beginning or the end, or add a little bit of interest, to the episode. So that was powerful what you just shared with me, though. I did not know that, Michelle, and I commend you for having endured. That emotionally, physically. Through your husband. I mean, that has got to be had to have been quite a bit on you at that time.
It definitely was, and I'll go ahead and just retell it. I mean, I definitely wanted children my whole life. When I got married, we made the attempt, and something they don't talk about in the Black community a lot is infertility. And
Mhm.
so we went to the doctor, got a little help, and because we have twins on both sides of our families, I got pregnant with quadruplets, three boys and a girl. Carried them 20 weeks, and unfortunately had some complications and had a tremendously terrible miscarriage. Beautiful 1 pound babies, perfectly formed,
Mhm.
and unfortunately lost them all. And so my son is 10 and a half years old, and that was about a year before him. And so he is my miracle baby, but I have 5 children, 4 in heaven waiting on me.
Absolutely, absolutely, always, absolutely. That's an amazing story. I mean, that in and of itself, we didn't even get on here to talk about that part of your journey,
Mhm.
but I mean, to start with that testimony, to start just telling me that, and then it being a part of a big part of your parental
Mhm.
journey, and a big part of your marital journey too, as well. I mean, you and your husband in it together trying to make this thing happen. And so, wow, what a powerful testimony. I don't even know what to say to that, Michelle. I don't have no words for that.
It's a blessing because, as an educator, I come across a lot of my alumni, and some have shared that journey with me,
Hmm.
and some have not been able to come on the other side of it. Some are still trying to
Yeah.
have that seed in the earth, and it's a difficult journey, and it's something that you have to overcome and
Hmm.
not allow it to consume you because it can. But what a blessing to see the triumph on the other side of that trial.
Yeah.
So God is good.
For sure, for sure. Well, hey, let's go get on into it because we're gonna celebrate you, celebrate your work, and your journey, and allow you to share with us, everything that is important to you along the course of that journey. So, I don't know if you've watched any episodes. I haven't started the official episode yet, but I'm gonna carry it the same way I do as always. I got some questions for you. I got an introduction. I do kind of the similar introduction. I end it the same way. We're gonna have some fun toward the end as well. So
That's it.
I hope you're ready.
I'm ready.
Yo, good people, welcome to another episode of The Ride, a journey to your dreams. I am your host, Johnny King III, aka Still Chill Leroy, and this is season 2 of the Revisit Your Dreams podcast right here on the Revisit Your Dreams channel on YouTube.com. Like always, I have a very special guest and a very special episode to present to you today. But before we get started, I'd like to remind you what we're doing here at Revisit Your Dreams. Here on Revisit Your Dreams, we provide encouragement, inspiration, motivation. We explore real life stories of trial, error, and success, and maybe even provide a few laughs along the way. Today's episode is titled Let Your Light and Your Life Shine Bright for Others. My very special guest today is a native of Vallejo, California, a lifelong educator, having taught both high school and college courses in the Bay Area over the past 22 years, a multiple time Teacher and Educator of the Year award recipient, vice president of the Golden Gate Speech Association. She's an author of multiple books and publications that include a mixture of children's books and inspiring personal chronicles. Her books can be found on Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com, as well as her own website, amplifyourvoices.net. She's a hearing, sign language, and English teacher, as well as an adjunct community college instructor. She's earned both a Bachelor of Arts and a Master of Arts in English from Sacramento State University. She is a devoted wife and mother to a neurodiverse son. We'll discuss what that means later in this episode. And is a lifelong advocate for ASL, deaf culture, students with special needs, and for promoting culturally relevant, inclusive, and diverse anti-racist cultures in educational institutions and organizations. She is a graduate of Hogan Senior High School in Vallejo, California, and a longtime acquaintance and friend. Please welcome to the show my very special guest, Michele Lamons-Raiford. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm going to hire you. I see. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm humbled. Thank you for asking me to come.
Yeah, thank you for being here. I appreciate you accepting the invitation. Your work, the thing that you have done, is worthy of being noted and being expressed. Your journey is inspiring to me. I'm sure it could be inspiring to other people. And there's so many ways that you're inspiring people, not just in your words, but in your actions, in your daily life, in your dealing with students and educators across the state of California. So we're going to get all into that and let you share your journey here shortly. But I like to start each episode by letting the audience know how I know each guest or how I met each guest. Each guest that I interview is somebody that I know personally. Some of them I've had longer relationships with than others. Michele, we kind of go way back to our high school days. Even though we
Yeah.
went to a different high school, we were still part of a group called the Tanner Project that took
Mhm.
African Americans, high school students, and taught us test taking skills, AC, or time organization skills, life skills, and toured us around the country to show us HBCUs and expose us to a different way of thinking that we would be exposed to in the small city of Vallejo. So that's how I know her. I had a relationship, I was cool with her brother, also with her parents. I've actually been in her childhood home, been mentored by her father, the late Mr. Al Lamons. So rest his soul. And that's my relationship with Michele. You have any feedback on that?
Yes. I mean, we go way back. So, ironically, I did go to Vallejo Junior High because
Okay.
back in our day, if you remember, it was seventh, eighth, ninth.
Hmm.
And I got bused across town because I was in the gate program at the time. And so myself and a lot of people from East Vallejo got bused over to Vallejo Junior. It was a little bit awkward because I started playing varsity basketball in the ninth grade. So I played varsity basketball in the ninth grade, going over to Hogan, wearing my Letterman jacket at Vallejo
Wow,
Junior. So it's a little bit awkward.
that's
But that is how
crazy.
I had a lot of relationships with Vallejo and Hogan, even though ended up going to Hogan and playing basketball there. But through the Tanner Project, now called obviously Willie B. Atkins Project, I learned everything as far as being around my adopted uncles, the Omega Sci-Fi, being around my adopted aunties, AKAs and Deltas for that matter. My mother's an AKA. My dad, Colonel Albert E. Lamon Sr., one of the founding members of the Omega Sci-Fi fraternity in Vallejo, Theta Pi chapter. But that's, was our foundation. We had a tremendous foundation through Tanner Project and Jack and Jill for that matter. I knew a lot of people all over the city from Jack and Jill of America as well. So we were blessed to have a tremendous foundation of a lot of people who mentored us in Vallejo.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Your father being one of them, like you said, all of those mentors, in the Tanner Project, all of them from different denominations of the Divine Nine.
Mm-hmm.
I happen to be a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and I do remember distinctly there wasn't a member of Alpha Phi Alpha represented, but for sure, your father, the late Mr. Otis Banks, who was I think was a Sigma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so many others, like you said, AKs and Deltas that were part of helping us grow and helping expose us to things that they already knew that we wouldn't have known if we didn't, get that exposure from them. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into and I didn't know I remembered you playing basketball, but that's interesting. I didn't know that you played like you were in ninth grade on the varsity team.
Yes, that was
Michele, you
100.
was that cold?
Listen, that was 100 pounds ago, and I had a little something, something. Bonnie Ray Tony was my
Uh-huh.
coach. So I don't know
Okay.
if you remember that name. So Bonnie Ray Tony was my coach. Debbie Ayers
Yeah, I
was my
remember
coach as
Debbie
well.
Ayers.
And so I started playing early. My brothers, growing up with two boys in the house, they taught me how to play basketball, and they used to call me Little Bit. I was just a little bitty thing with my Converse, and I'd get out there and play off guard, and I had a little something, something,
That's
little
dope. I
something.
didn't know you was that cool. We gotta go back and look at the archives, man. We gotta look at the
Listen, got a
archives.
got a couple newspaper articles,
Hey,
did my
you need to be
thing.
nominated in the Vallejo Sports Hall of Fame or something like that.
I don't know about that. I got it. 3 months into my senior year and unfortunately got into a car accident. So it kind of
Oh,
derailed my career.
yeah.
Now I got about 10, 15 minutes in this shoulder. That's all you get.
So, hey, writing is where it's at now, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what's up. Okay, well, that's some dope, interesting stuff, man. I didn't know that about you. So let's get into it though. You've written multiple books over the years, covering. By the way, this is a another edition in our book author series. The first episode was featured, Monica and Cameron, Monica Renee and Cameron Johnson, both authors from Vallejo. Michele Lamons-Raiford, also an author from Vallejo. And I did release an episode a couple of weeks ago. Shaman Walton, who wrote a book, he's an author from Vallejo. So you can see a theme going here. It's not just from Vallejo, because I have some other authors that I'm interviewing too from other parts of the country, people that I've met in college. But that's what's going on here. This is another edition of the book author series, and we're meeting with author Michele Lamons-Raiford. You've written multiple books over the years covering a variety of topics. Your most recent work is chronicling your experience in South Carolina with the Gullah Geechee culture and people. Talk about what inspired you to turn your personal retreat experience into a book.
Well, thanks for asking. That one in particular, that one just was released a few days ago, literally on the day that I went 2 years ago. So I always found writing very cathartic. And when I started my writing journey, I wanted to help hold myself accountable. And so I've been members of an organization called Teach Plus, which is an education policy group that I'm still involved with. And so members of Teach Plus that I've met also, we have a similar connection also with a group called Above and Beyond, which
Mm-hmm.
is also a teaching foundation. It used to be called Carlson Family Foundation. So a couple of us Black writers got together and we decided we wanted to form a group. And so we were meeting twice a month online for about a year, and we were holding ourselves accountable, just having a space that we had to make sure that we were writing, whether it be op-eds on education, whether it be narratives, reflections, whatever, and then getting immediate feedback from our co-writers, just to have a Black writer coalition, a Black writers group that we can hold ourselves accountable, but also have an affinity group as well. So we wanted to meet in person. So the organizers decided they wanted not only have a writers retreat, but also to have some Black history experience. And so when they decided on South Carolina to go to Hilton Head, I was not familiar with Gullah Geechee culture.
Mm-hmm.
So when we went on this tour, our job was to basically meet, connect, but also write. And I became almost a chronicler of the journey. So I was taking a lot of pictures, I was writing a lot of things, everyone was, but I decided I was just going to make it into a blog. When I made it into a blog, a lot of the people who were on the line said, this just really sounds like it needs to be a little bit of a compilation or an anthology or something to put pen to paper and not just have it be, in the online atmosphere. And so I contacted the tour guide, the incomparable Dr. Emery Shaw Campbell, and he's a Gullah Geechee expert. And I talked to him and his family and his organization who owns the tour company, and I asked him for an interview. And once I got that interview, I said, okay, this is going to be a book. So I wanted to make sure that people from California understood there's a lot of Black history we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And coming from California, I think that we, like I said, yourself and myself, we were blessed to learn a lot about Black history. But I got over 50 years old and didn't know anything about Gullah Geechee culture. My family did. My
Mm-hmm.
parents are both from Florida. My husband's from Florida, but I didn't know anything about this. And I just wanted to really amplify their story. I wanted to give people a voice to, if you go and have an experience like that you feel like is changing, life changing and impactful, you should chronicle it. And who's going to tell your story if you don't?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the latest book is about Gullah Geechee culture. And it's just another way for our history not to be erased.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for chronicling that. Thank you for helping to preserve, the history of our culture and expose the history of our culture. Because you're right. Not many of us, I mean, I'm not speaking for all of us, but I would think that not many of us are familiar with the Gullah Geechee culture unless we live in that area or have, close relatives that are associated with that culture. And
Mhm.
so I'm looking forward to reading that book because I really don't know much about it.
Mhm.
I've heard things, and I assume the little bit that I know is still an assumption. You know what I mean? And so, Yeah, that's interesting that all of the people on the journey with you were also writing, but
Yes.
yours kind of made it to the forefront and rose to the top. Do you think that your writing experience in previous book releases and things like that helped present your blog in such a way that made it stand out like that, to where they recommended it for that kind of exposure?
Well, when you're part of a group that is affirming, they're going to encourage everything. So I'm not the only published author in that space by, any stretch.
Mhm.
But when you're part of a group that is recognizing the power of the pen and recognizing that we don't need anybody else to amplify our voice for us, right? They're
Mhm.
going to encourage you to do that. So while I was encouraged to put out mine, we encourage other people to put out other things. They put out books of poetry. They've also put out children's books as well. So you just have to surround yourself with, the motivation, with the encouragement. Because when I first started writing, I got no's. And so
Yeah.
that's why I'm an indie author. That's why I'm a self published author. There's nothing like having somebody tell you that your voice needs to be changed, right?
Mhm.
That someone, I guess, questioning your worth, questioning your narrative, and questioning how you tell your story. And
Mhm.
so once you get around people that say, no, your value, no, your voice is important, no, you don't have to change, no, guess what? You can do it yourself. It gives you that push. So instead of sitting there, if I can use a pregnancy metaphor, with all of these things in your spirit and all these things in your belly waiting to be manifested, you need to surround yourself with people, the positive energy, the spiritual energy, to give you that push to do it yourself. Because previously, I've been told no.
Mhm.
And I've been told, no, you can't do that. No, you need to change. And that's why it took me almost 50 years to publish something like this. My first book came out last year, and I've done 7 books since
Wow.
then. So I'm on book number 7, but what I had was this goal of 5 before 50. I said, I
Mhm.
can no longer wait for people to validate me. I need to understand that I don't need to find validation in others, that I could do it myself. And that no is just a catalyst for me to begin my own journey, to push myself out there and say, you know what? I'm worthy. I'm important. Somebody
Mhm.
needs to hear this. And if one person is impacted, that's all I needed. So that is how my journey started. It started with a no.
Yeah. Yeah. All no's eventually lead to a yes if you're persistent.
Mhm.
And so and the thing that I hear from you is, if they don't invite you to the table, build your own table. You
That
know,
part.
and so it looks like that's what you did. I also keep hearing you refer to amplify your voice. Amplify your voice. I see you got a shirt that says amplify on. I know that your site is amplify our voices. So tell me, is that's not even a question that I have here, but is that a part of your branding message, or is that a part of the larger group that you're a part of? Is that just singularly you, or what is
That
that?
that's actually mine. And I will be, making it completely official. It is my website. It's going to be my company, my organization. I want to make sure that all marginalized voices are amplified, whether it be neurodivergent, my son, whether it be neurodiverse, all of the different personalities and socioeconomic backgrounds and religions and cultures, et cetera, in my classrooms, whether it be the cultures and creeds, whether it be somebody's background, whether it be somebody who's been told no.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that they understand that you can amplify your own voice. And there are people out here who are willing to amplify your voice as well without changing it. Right. So if there's a story out there that hasn't been written, write it yourself. So it's about my branding is amplifying voices from all different walks of life, including those who've been told no.
Yeah. Yeah. Write your story yourself and tell it your way. You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, somebody else is going to tell it for you.
Yep, yep. I think I heard something recently. I've heard it many times, but I heard something recently. It says, the hunter is always going to be the hero in the story of the,
Mm,
until something about until the lion has thumbs, the hunter is always going to be glorified in the story.
mm, mm,
you know
hmm
and so it kind of goes along the line with, until you create your own table, until you're given an opportunity to express your own voice, your own way, or unless you're given that, then you're restricted to what somebody else wants you to do. And it sounds like
Mhm.
you are providing a path not only for yourself, but maybe even eventually for others to help amplify their voices. I think that's commendable. There's a lot of people I know that would like to publish their books or publish a
Mhm.
work, and there's a gatekeeper somewhere saying, no, you can't come through here. And it seems
Mhm.
like you got keys and you like, I'm gonna put this key in this lock, I'm gonna open this gate for you, you can go through there.
Yes.
That's dope, Michele.
Yes, and it's also like I said, I'll just echo it again that you have to surround yourself with those people. I have to give a shout out to my husband, Wayne Ronald Rayford, who was a huge catalyst as well, and basically, said stop double dutching. Stop double dutching on your dreams, stop double dutching on your, questioning yourself. And another shout out to my girl Tamara Simpson. She was one who also part of my Black writers group, who gave me a push and said, what are you waiting for? And she was also a really good thought partner and mentor to be able to look and say, this is how you do it, and this is what you can do. So not only surround yourself with positivity, but putting yourself in spaces with like-minded people who can say, this is how it's done. So whether there's a gatekeeper or not, if you surround yourself with somebody who's been through that door, they can give you a little boost with that key as well.
They can tell you how to get around those gates too if you need to.
So,
That's dope. That's very inspiring. To have a group, and very important to have a group of people like that to help you push you into your dreams or push you into the don't quit, mode.
mhm,
Like you sometimes it's just that boost of you're like you said in the beginning, you're worthy, you're enough, your voice is powerful, keep going.
mhm.
Your children's books are inspiring many people. As a mother of a neurodiverse child, what inspired you to start writing about his story, and what do you hope families take away from your work in this area?
There you go. Okay, so I'm gonna take a pause and just collect my thoughts here on this one. So when my son was diagnosed with autism, ADD, ADHD, insomnia disorder, which I didn't even know what that was, a month before he was 2 years old, I immediately had what a lot of people call, the shattering of your dreams. You have all these dreams and ideas and goals of what you think your child's going to be. And you start focusing on this diagnosis that this child has, and it kind of segues everything. So I started doing a whole bunch of research. What do I know about autism? And I know pretty good amount because I'm an educator. 23 years in the game, the high school level, 18 years at the college level, I've come across many a student with autism, but this is mine. And he's a baby. And so my experience is 14 and up. And so here I have this child, I didn't know what to do. So in my research, I wanted to find some children's books. When I tell you there are less than a handful of children's books about kids with autism who are Black or brown,
Mm,
let alone children's books about kids with autism,
period.
period.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted my son to be able to see himself and his story in children's books.
Mm,
And once again, I didn't see it. And so I had all these dreams and goals and ideas, but I had to really kind of sit back and say, my son is having some really great experiences and some not so great experiences. And that was the other thing. Some of the books I read focused on the negative aspects of autism.
mhm,
And I really had a blessing with his elementary school. I'll give a shout out to Ellahurst Elementary School in Pinole, California. I moved him there because it's right down the street from my school. So I did move out of Vallejo District into Pinole, West Contra Costa Unified School District. But he's been with the same kids from kindergarten till fifth grade. And when I tell you those kids take care of that boy, they are like his little family. They protect him, they love him. And he had some really, really great experiences. And I wanted to, once again, chronicle that. And I wanted to show how, it's not always about stemming repetitive behavior. It's not always about tantrums. It's not all about sensory overload. Sometimes it's two little kids who are friends
mhm,
and they're having a wonderful experience. Sometimes it's about everybody going to a field trip. Sometimes it's about the relationship between my son, who still doesn't understand death, and his grandfather, and how he's navigating or not navigating the loss of his grandfather.
mhm,
Those type of stories need to be told because parents of neurodivergent children, do not always have someone that they can relate to. So it was for my son to be able to see himself in children's literature as a Black child growing up with autism. But it was also for those parents to be able to have that book to show to their kids,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just not out there. So that was the catalyst for that. I wanted to make sure that there were more representation for Black kids with autism.
Sticking to the script. Amplify Our Voices is on your shirt, and you are
Mhm.
amplifying his voice. You are amplifying the voice of many like him that are underserved and underheard. Like you said, there weren't any books that you could find that represented him. Very few. You can count them on one hand.
Mhm.
If any, and very not very many for the entire society of autistic
Mhm.
human beings. So that's great again, and it goes along with the theme. If you're watching, I hope this is an inspirational moment. Build the table. Build the
Mhm.
table you want to eat at. You know what I'm saying? Build the table you want your friends and family to eat at. And your son, as far as having a place to see himself in text and literature, didn't have a table to eat at, and you built one for him.
Definitely.
And for those other families out there who might not write the book but need to have access to that information. So that's very commendable, Michele. Thank you for doing that. I commend you for that work. Very powerful. I'm sure you're inspiring. You guys, if you're watching, you can find those books on Amazon.com, on BarnesandNobles.com, and on AmplifyOurVoices.net. We'll have those links for you in the description so you can quickly access them. We mentioned earlier that you are a lifelong educator. You seem to maintain a very bright and genuine smile. What does it mean to you to be a beacon of light to the young people you teach and within the educational communities that you serve?
I appreciate that. I am no way a perfect teacher. I am actually teaching the kids of my kids now, and they will let you know I was much wilder in my younger days. I'm slowing down a little bit, but I teach because I was taught. I grew up in Vallejo. I went to North Hills Christian School, Federal Terrace, Vallejo Junior High School, Hogan High School, Solano Community College, did some time there, CSU Sacramento. I still remember my teachers' names: Foster Hicks,
Mm-hmm. Shout
okay,
out to Mr. Hicks, Foster
Mr. Mack,
Hicks.
right? Vernon McAllister,
Mr. Mack.
Alan Haston. You know what I'm saying? We remember these people who, Mrs. Forts was my sixth grade teacher. The people that sowed seeds into our lives, who took us on those Black college tours: Jocelyn Hendricks, Ken
Mm-hmm.
Hendricks,
Mm-hmm.
Willie B. Atkins. I just talked to them a few weeks ago, and they're in their 90s now, still
Yeah,
keeping in
just
touch.
celebrated a birthday recently. Mr. Atkins
Yeah.
did.
Yes, I just talked to them a few weeks ago. And so it is a blessing to give what was given to me. I remember people sliding money, even though you didn't necessarily need it or want it. I remember them making sure that they had a pizza party every now and again. I remember what it was like to go on a field trip. I remember what it was like to have a safe place in the classroom. I remember what it was like for somebody to remember your birthday. And so to me, when people say, "Oh, you're a great educator," that's a blessing, because I make a lot of mistakes. But I'm a great educator, in my opinion, because I had great educators. So
Mm-hmm.
too much is given, much is required. You want to give back what was given to you.
Yeah.
So as I go through these, different iterations of my career, I'm doing all these adjunct duties: Native American Student Union, African American Student Union. Here I am, a Black girl, doing Indian Pakistani Student Union. Some kid comes up, say, "I like to knit and crochet. Let's do a club, intertwine our minds." Forensic speech and debate. All of these things that I'm doing is not because I have the time, energy, or even sometimes the desire to do it, but I'm doing it because somebody did it for me. We had a Black student union. We had a choir, gospel choir at Hogan. We had, to go to had the ability to go to Yosemite. So I want to make sure that when I am stepping into that classroom, I remember all the people who stepped in before me. And so that's why I stay in, because clearly America is not, trying to deal with education. I mean, they just did another cut. They're talking about all these, causes of autism. They're talking about what they're going to slash in special education. They're talking about, we love the teachers during the pandemic. Now they don't love them anymore. So we
Right.
can't rely on America to sustain education or to amplify our voice as an educator. but somebody did it for me, so I need to do it for somebody else.
Man, reciprocated. And you're right. I can't speak for your entire journey. You just spoke for your journey, but we do have some shared experiences in that area with, with the Willie B. Atkins project, the Tanner project. They did it for us. They exposed us. They shared with us. They taught us. They helped groom us, mold us. They helped us see the world in a different way than we would have seen it if we hadn't been exposed together like that. And I think that is powerful that you are not trying to reinvent the wheel. You're just doing what you giving back what you received.
Mm-hmm.
You're giving back what you received, and that's so powerful because I know when I look at the pictures on your Facebook, I see you in the pictures with a bunch of students with Letterman's jackets, with just regular students. I don't want to say regular. I don't want to classify anyone. All different types of students is what I'm trying to athletes, students, students from different classes, different diverse ethnicities, male and female.
Mm-hmm.
I see that, and it goes to show with 22 years in what are all those years in Contra Costa County, or all your
Yeah,
teaching years
so
in
so
Contra Costa.
all 23 years are at Pinole Valley High School, and I'm learning more and more as I continue this journey. It's kind of rare to stay
Yeah,
at one school. So 23 years at Pinole Valley and 18 years at Solano College.
I was
Did a
gonna say.
couple of summers, some other places, but yeah, all of them in the West Contra Costa County.
I was gonna say, so there's kids that are in their 20s and near their 30s now that still remember Miss Lamons-Raiford, from Pinole
Wait a
Valley
second,
High
let me,
School.
let me go there. My oldest kid is 40. So
Wow.
I was 26 when I started. And so they were 16. So my oldest kid just turned 40. And so that's why I have the students of my students. So we just had back to school night and people are coming in saying Miss Layman's, but they look, my age.
Yeah.
So while I am 50, it's interesting and it makes it a beautiful dynamic though, because I'm like, I'm going to call your mom because, I taught her too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
this
know
is
her person. I
really,
got her number in my phone.
yes, personally. So
Yeah.
it's nice to have the generational, aspect of teaching. But yeah, all of them at Pinole Valley High School.
That's amazing, man. That's so amazing. And then the inspiration that you get, I mean, that a student gets from someone like yourself. This is kind of my own little bit of testimony, but I remember being in 10th grade at Vallejo High School, and there was my algebra teacher was named Donald Krebs, a white man
Mm,
named Donald Krebs, and uh, I I won't say I didn't learn much in that class because of Donald Krebs. What I
mm,
learned in that class was he was an amazing photographer, and he had all of these pictures that lined the ceilings that he framed, that he'd taken himself from all around the world. I mean,
mm,
pictures of whales, pictures of birds flying, pictures of Paris, pictures of different things. And I was distracted in class
mm,
while he was teaching. I
mhm,
was just constantly looking up at those pictures, so I missed a lot. And
mhm,
one day as we got toward the end of the school year, I asked him. I said, "Mr. Krabs, I said, I love these pictures, man. Who did this?" He was like, "I took these." I said,
mm,
"You did?" He said, "Yeah, I took every single one of these." I said, "How did you take?" And I was amazed. I didn't know much about photography at all then, so I was amazed. How did you take that? How did you capture that?
mm,
So he started explaining some things to me. Where I'm getting to is that his inspiration to me to be a photographer. I started taking pictures, became a photographer later on in life, and I
mm,
vividly, I traced that back to my exposure from Donald Krebs. My dad was a photographer too, but Donald Krebs was the one who his work is what inspired me to develop more interest in it. So I imagine
mm.
there are some students you have right now that know you as an author that may be inspired in the future to write their own books and to amplify their own voices, and some of them that may even amplify their voices through your network. So that's just, I think you're building a dope legacy, Michelle.
Appreciate that. That's a blessing.
Yeah. Let's talk about your parents for a moment. I've met your parents. I've personally been mentored by your father, the late great Mr. Corporal Al Lamons.
Colonel,
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 I didn't mean corporal. I meant colonel.
Colonel.
Sorry, I said the wrong words. Colonel Al Lamons. We spent some time together in church, and he personally mentored me in your home one time. Just we sat and talked for a couple hours, and I always had very high praise for what your father meant. Those words. But talk about the impacts that your parents have had on you in your journey as an educator and as an author.
Well, that's another blessing that I had. I had my dad for almost 50 years. He was with my mother for 68 years, married for 64. So that's the first inspiration. You see, a marriage. You see two people committed to each other literally till death do us part. So that's the first inspiration is you have both parents in your home. You have a healthy marriage that you can see every day. So that's the inspiration. Of course, I said, and my dad is a colonel. I can't imagine what it was like 33 and a half years in the military. My dad was born 1937. What must that have been like to get all the way to full colonel status? So his quiet demeanor, as you remember,
Mm-hmm.
his, stoic nature, his confidence, his giving to a fault for people, whether it be mentoring, monetarily, all that kind of stuff. That's something that I feel like I got from my dad. And people, I write a lot of grants, I give a lot of things to students, and people say, you give a lot of stuff. And I say, well, my dad was kind of instilled that into me. He always gave the family and friends and whoever needed it. So that's something that he gave. My mother, actually, they're both registered nurses as well. I did not get that part, but they're both RNs. And my mother is just the queen. She took care of my dad literally to the day he passed. She was by his side the whole time. She was a nurse to him, nurse to so many other people. She was a church nurse at Ephesians and Center of Hope in Oakland. And she was just someone who worked diligently and tirelessly, but always had that caring nature, always had that word. She was the pinnacle of an AKA. People call her bougie. I call her gorgeous. She's our Cherokee queen.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so having both of them, they were both educated, they were both articulate, they were both, you know, Black historians as far as I'm concerned. And I grew up in a house that literally had living Black history. They instilled it in all three of us. I have an older brother, Al Jr. I have a second older brother, Dwayne. I love them, tremendously. They were both father figures and still are. Mind you, when we played football, I had to be the football, but let's not talk about that, which is how I
little
learned how to
little
play
little
basketball.
bit.
Right. But we grew up with literally two heroes. We grew up with two people who we didn't have to look outside our house for heroes. My mom and dad, whether it be through Omega, whether it be through the boys club, whether it be the debutante ball, which my
Mm-hmm.
mother, obviously had us do, Miss Fashionetta, 1992. That was all her. Okay. Because I couldn't curse to save my life. But we were surrounded with affirmations. We were surrounded with confidence. We were surrounded with support. We didn't want for anything. Born and raised in the same house. Not a lot of people can say that. So I grew up with my heroes, with my Black history, not just outside, but inside the house. And they instilled Christianity, love the Lord with all your heart, honor your parents, Jesus first, going to church, going to school, handling your business. We all had jobs. They instilled that in us. And so I thank them, and I thank the Lord that I had the parents and still have my mom, who's still here at almost 85 years old. But without them, I don't think I would be who I am today.
Yeah, yeah, wow. And God bless your father's soul, man. He was a great man, and I'm glad that your mother is still with you and still with
Yes.
us. I do know both your brothers, Dwayne and Al Jr. I haven't seen him since high school. It's been quite a while, but yeah, I imagine knowing your father. I didn't know your mother. I wasn't as close to your mother as I was your father, but knowing your father, I can only imagine the care, the kindness, the discipline, the structure, the
Hmm.
determination. Like you said, with his stoic nature, um, you know, he'll be looking, and you won't know really what he's feeling. You
Hmm.
know,
For sure.
you
That's
know,
absolutely for sure.
and that's what I always got from because when he starts talking, something other than what you thought he was thinking comes out, and it
Hmm.
was always poignant, to me whenever he
Hmm.
said something, because we didn't have a lot of conversations. I'm much younger than him, but the few that we had were, they meant something, You know,
Definitely.
they definitely meant something. He
And I
wasn't a
didn't really
man. He wasn't a man of just wasting words.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. So when he gave it to you, you better listen because growing up in Florida, not having a lot, growing up in Florida and then coming to California, and doing what he did was just, he literally grew up in what they call shanty towns,
Hmm.
barefoot, you know what I mean, and just the stories he would tell. They always talk about, walking miles in the snow and all that kind of stuff. My dad had real stories, but you never really knew it because he didn't wear his history.
Right.
He didn't wear his, trials. He didn't wear his, tribulations. He was going to be dressed to the nine from the socks all the way up,
Hmm.
and he was going to have that calm, cool, collective there. That swag is what they call it now, right?
Yeah.
And he was just a colonel. You never knew what he went through. You never
Yeah.
knew what he was going through.
Man,
You never knew.
I loved talking to you. I loved his voice. I loved listening to
Mhm,
your dad's voice, man. Um,
mhm.
well, thank you for sharing that with us, and God bless your parents for blessing you or blessing the world with you, because you're blessing others. What has been the greatest challenge and the greatest joy of writing and releasing your work?
The greatest joy, well, let's start with the greatest challenge has been getting over imposter syndrome. Because when you have been told no, you feel like you're not supposed to be doing what you're doing. And I think it was Barack Obama who said, if you're at the table, you need to understand that you were supposed to be there.
Hmm.
So, getting over that imposter syndrome is something I still battle with. The greatest joy, there's a couple. Of course, being able to chronicle my son's story because it's not only affected my son eventually when he, has a little bit more ability to understand everything that I'm writing because he does recognize things in there, but his friends and showing them how impactful they have been on his life. But the other one is, I think, is being able to put a little bit of my father's legacy. One of the books is called Mike and Grandpa's Red Rocking Chair. I'll get it real quick. And so this is one of the books. And so I've really just kind of been able to give a little bit of my father's legacy. And I think they did a good job capturing him in this book. And it's just a short little, story, but capturing their relationship and honoring my father, as well as the Gullah book, I began to dedicate a lot of things to my dad. And
Hmm.
so being able to honor his legacy in that way. So challenge is definitely still to this day getting over imposter syndrome. People say, how could you say that 7 books later? You could still say it. You
Yeah.
still say it.
Yeah.
And the joy is amplifying my son's voice, amplifying my father's legacy, amplifying my son's friends, because with little kids, they don't always know the impact that they have until they grow up.
Hmm.
I'm not sure to, 10, 11-year-olds really understand that they made his life easier. They made my life easier because I knew somebody was looking out for him. So
Hmm.
when they grow up, I've been able to kind of take a little piece of that and say, no, you actually changed our lives. And so showing them, not just showing my son and parents of kids with autism, but showing the friends how important their relationships have been. So those are some of the challenges and joys.
Man, I think when you use the word legacy a couple of times in that past statement, and you talked about the kids that you wrote about in the book that are your son's friends. That at one day in the future they're gonna be old enough to understand maybe the nature of those words in the book and say,
Mhm,
"Wow, she thought about me like I impacted him like that," you know
mhm.
and the fact that you took the time to write them and script them and publish them in a book, it in and of itself is a powerful legacy because now there's a piece of what's your son's name? Micah.
My son's name is Micah Simon Rayford.
Micah. So now there's a piece of Micah and there's a piece of Michele Lamons-Raiford on their shelf,
Mhm,
and in their heart and spirit forever because
mhm,
they're planted in yours,
mhm,
for the writing. So just a powerful, testimony. And I think if you're in a process of writing a book, if you're listening and watching, use your own journey, use your own story, tell your stories and tell it your way. I think the theme of it here is tell it the way you want it to be told. Let it
mhm.
impact who you want it to impact. Don't be concerned so much about how people are going to judge it and view it because it's going to hit the people it's supposed to hit, and that's who
I love
all
it.
you should be concerned about.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely. I'm gonna echo that because I was just talking to someone again today, and they were like, "Oh, congratulations on your book. I've been meaning to write a book," or "I've already finished my book, but I don't know what to do with it," or "I would love to." And it's just those, suppositions of life. I don't know how many people I've talked to say, "Yeah, I have a book," and I'm like, "Well, where is it?"
yeah.
And if you don't publish it, it's going to die with you. So I do want to give a shout out to Revival Center Ministries and Apostle Ricky Nutt, as well as Ricky J.R. Nutt, his son, because they are on this journey as far as amplifying voices as well, whether it be at church, whether it be as counselor or a teacher. They're on that journey as well. And Ricky has written books as well. And I want to encourage others to understand that sometimes when you're going to church and you get a word, you need to heed that word, because if you don't do what God has put inside you, it's going to die with you. So, as you said, to encourage your audience to write the book, yeah, that's great, but get it out. Don't just put it on the shelf, because then somebody's going to publish it posthumously and maybe not do it the way you want it to. If it's in you, or if it's on paper, get it out, because you don't want that legacy to die with you.
You're inspiring me with those words. This podcast, Revisit Your Dreams, was part of a legacy that I didn't want to die. So I had to do it. And I
Mhm.
started with the imposter syndrome. I still kind of have it a little bit. But I know that the people like yourself that I'm bringing on to help expose and to help tell their stories is impacting other people, and maybe even impact my guests. And it definitely impacts me. So if it's just me and you that get something out of it, that's all. It's already done the work. Um, you
So
know,
what I'm hearing is I'm going to be harassing you about chronicling your journey, because doing this podcast is a tremendous leap of faith. But now I'm hearing that you got a little something in there. So now we're going to have to be a midwife.
See, now I gotta, I gotta sit at that table you sat at when those people sat around and said, "Hey, you need to get that out. Don't stop holding
That's what
that
I'm
in."
saying.
So yes, Michelle, hold me accountable, because
All
I
right.
know I got a couple of words in there. I've already got, like I said, I got when you was hit dog holler.
Mm,
I'm hollering right now because you hit
I'm
me when you said that last statement. Everything you
all
just said
right.
was hitting me. I got some halfway books and some where is it? Yeah,
Oh boy.
I
Everybody heard it. Everybody heard it.
so that's dope. But thank you for that inspiration, and we gonna keep in touch just for some encouragement and motivation on that front. Okay.
Sure.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit and have a little bit of fun. But first, let's talk about something we both have in common, and that is growing up in the city of Vallejo. Even though we
Yeah.
went to different high schools, we attended the same junior high school. I went to Vallejo Junior High School as well. Maybe not at the same time, but talk to us about what growing up in Vallejo has meant to you and what you think is behind the volume of talent that rises out of the itty bitty city by the
That itty bitty city. Um,
bay.
we are if not one of the most diverse cities in California and in America, period. I'm not sure how many places you will go and you'll see every ethnicity, every culture. Now, when we were going to school, you saw everybody. You saw Black, you saw Filipino, you saw Latino, you saw Asian, you saw everybody.
Mhm.
And so the diversity, I feel like, is what makes Vallejo really, really beautiful. We have the hills and the valleys. We have the stone concrete, and we have, the beautiful shores of Glen Cove. You have these beautiful bridges that kind of, you can go down to the Glen Cove Water Park and see, and then you can go over to Highway 37 and see the marsh, and then you can go over to, Hillside all the way to the crest. You
Mhm.
see everything in between. So the diversity of ethnicities and cultures and backgrounds, I think, is something that's powerful. And I used to think we were such a David to the Goliath of the Bay Area until I went overseas. And I went to Middlesex University in London, England for the first
Mhm.
semester of my master's. And I went and I was in a flat with a bunch of different people. And I got a job at a hip hop promoter's place. And I said, I'm from a place called Vallejo, by San Francisco, by Oakland. And he was like, I know where Vallejo is. And then he starts spitting Mac Dre and starts spitting E40. And I said, look at Vallejo in 1998 being international. And
Wow.
so our itty bitty city is not just now getting on the map. It's been on the map for a minute. East Coast all the way to London, England. So the diversity is something that no one can shake. We used to call it what, Marine World.
Right, right.
That's what everybody used to,
Marine
And
world.
so sometimes I'll be talking to the students and be like, Six Flags, Seven Flags, and they're like, Seven Flags a car wash. I'm like, listen, I grew up with Marine World, so
Marine
I don't know
world.
what
It's
y'all
still
talking
Marine
about.
world as far as I
And
know.
but I think we have a David and Goliath itty bitty city type thing. And yeah, people say, oh, Vallejo's just now getting on the map. We've been on the map.
Yeah,
Sly and the Family Stone, Confunction. Come on.
for sure.
We've been on the map, you know. But I think the diversity is what makes us beautiful. I tell people the story of Vallejo, Mariano Guadalupe Vallejo, his wife Benicia, knowing the history that we used to be the capital. People don't know that,
Yep.
right? But we have a David and Goliath. We are the itty bitty city, but we're powerful. We're that ripple in the pond. We're the one that people go, no, 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 not the one that's near San Francisco, the one that's near Vallejo, you
Yeah.
know. So it's different now, but we are the Davids, the underdogs, the ones that sometimes people overlook, but then we make that impact.
Make that impact so much so that, like you said, the David and Goliath, there was at one point where, like I said in the previous episode, Vallejo didn't even exist. If you look at a map of California, it wasn't even listed on the map.
Mhm.
And now it's in big bold letters like Oakland and San Francisco ain't even half the size of those cities.
That part.
You know what I'm saying?
That
So
part.
so it says something. And that, like you said, that's crazy when you said over in in Middlesex,
Middlesex
London
University.
or England.
Mhm. London, England. Yep.
Man,
Technically, I lived in Tottenham, but Middlesex is in London, England. It's
and somebody
it's,
over there spitting Mac Dre.
oh my goodness. I actually went to a club out there, and I saw Busta Rhymes live, and they were playing E40 and Mac Dre, and I said, "Oh, this is wild.
Wow, that's
This
dope.
is wild. These are some real hip hop heads.
Yeah,
When you are, it's not underground. It's just if you know hip hop, you know hip hop. You
exactly.
know the history of it. You know the culture of it. You know the hitters.
That's
You
right.
know, and so it wasn't just Oakland, Richmond, San Francisco. It was Vallejo. It
Yep.
was Vallejo.
Yep. And I agree totally with the diversity in the code. Like I mentioned usually in 2014, Huffington Post ranked Vallejo, California, the most diverse city in America.
Mm.
I
Oh,
know
well,
that
there
was
you
over
go.
10 years ago, but to be ranked the number one in anything as far as a city and the most diverse, that goes to show it is not like all of the races left Vallejo as soon as 2014, 2015 hit.
Mm.
They still there.
For sure.
They're still there. We
For
probably
sure.
still the most diverse city.
Oh yeah.
They're just not coming back to Vallejo to find out. you know.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're really going to talk about Vallejo as far as a place for people living. My parents moved to Vallejo not just for the diversity, but for the weather. It
Mm.
was the perfect blend. Obviously, they're coming
Wow.
from Florida, but it is the perfect blend of weather.
Yeah.
Sac is too hot. San
Mm-hmm.
Francisco is too cold. No disrespect to both.
Mm-hmm.
Vallejo is where it's at.
It's right there. You got a little
It's
bit of the
right
breeze from
there.
the water, but you got the mountains to block some of that heat and to block some of that cold front wind. Yep,
Yes,
you're right. It's
it's
perfect. And
perfect
I never really
weather.
thought you got flat land, we got mountains, we got water, we got bridges, we got a nearby. I mean, the beach ain't big, but we got a little beach in Vallejo. Like
Yes,
Vallejo got a
you
little
got
bit of
everything.
everything. You got a
You
little
got
bit of
everything you're
everything.
looking for. If you want some snow, you can drive a little ways. If you want to, go and get your suntan on, you can drive a little ways. It's actually situated perfectly in the
Yeah.
bay. So let's not talk about the weather because the weather is, I'm not going anywhere.
No,
I need these
see,
housing prices to
that's
go
the
down.
one thing I always miss. Like when anybody asks me when now, you miss California. Of course, I miss California, but what do you miss about it? The weather,
The
the weather,
weather,
my family, but the weather.
the
It
weather.
cannot be beat. I don't. I've been to so many places around the country. In Florida, I just left Florida, Orlando, Miami. Been on the East Coast, North, South. It don't compare. Not even in the Bay Area. San Francisco
Mm-mm.
don't compare to Vallejo in
Nope.
weather. LA, Southern California don't compare to Vallejo in weather. So
No, no, the weather is perfect here, and if I could take this weather anywhere, this is a place to be as far as weather. So diversity and weather.
for sure, for sure. All right, well, now let's get into some little bit more fun stuff. You at toward the end, you started mentioning some names of some groups
Yes.
and some music. So since we on that subject, let's stay there for a minute. Time for another chronicle of the V list, your
Mm,
personal Vallejo only playlist. All right, has only. I used to do it with five. I used to do this with five slots. I changed it now. It's only three. there's a lot of people you could put on 5, but it also makes it like I could just throw some names out. You got to be
Mm,
a little more challenged when it's just 3. All right.
mm.
So here's the deal: you got 3 slots on your playlist. You can only fill it with Vallejo-based artists. Who you listening to?
Whew, that's tough. Um, I know everybody's gonna say 40. And I'll say 40, but I can't listen to 40 in my mama's house. So gotta be careful with that. So I'm gonna say 40. I'm gonna say um I'll say her. I need 4 though.
I'm
I'll
gonna give you.
say
Let's
give
do.
me 4,
I'm
give
gonna
me
give you
4.
4. I'm gonna give you 4.
Okay. I'll say 40, I'll say her, I'll say confunction, and I'm gonna say Revival Center Ministries because our praise and worship is everything, and there's a lot of original songs. So I could listen to Revival Center Ministries all day. And I'm not just saying that because I play
Yeah.
guitar on the stage. They're in 35 years of being there with Ron Cooley and with Georgia Kenyon and with Brent Dana and Ricky J. Eyre writing music. I can listen to Revival Center all day. So those are going to be my 4. Since I can't go in the house with 40, I'll probably throw on Revival Centers.
You can play
But
that
I'm
all
gonna have
day in the
40 in
house.
my car. I'm gonna have them in my car.
Yeah, 40 in the car. That's dope.
Yeah, I need
That's
to
dope.
sprinkle a little bit. Sprinkle a little bit.
I've told, I've asked this to everybody from Vallejo that I've interviewed, and all but one person has mentioned her on their list. So almost everybody has got her on the list, and most
Mm.
people have E40 on the list. There's a couple people that left them off the list, and only had Crestside Thiz artists.
Okay.
you know,
Okay. So then that changes a little bit too. So
oh,
if I'm
see,
going, wait a second though, if I'm just going musically and I want to hear because I'm a guitar player, I'm gonna put Sly on there.
okay.
If I just want to listen to some music, I'm probably gonna go Sly and the Family Stone.
So all right, so we're gonna go Sly, her, 40,
Yep.
Sly, her, and 40,
Confunction.
and
Yeah.
come function.
Oh wait,
Okay.
I still gotta go to 3. Lord, I done went to 5.
See, we don't want, you know what? I
See,
might have to just leave it 5 because
I
it
think you have
three.
to leave at 5
But
because
see,
that's not
3 is
fair.
really hard. That's the hope. I'm like, I'm gonna change it to 3 because I know it's gonna make people really think who you really
Okay.
listening to.
Okay, man, if I had to go 3, it would be her, 40, and Confunction, probably. Yeah.
Right, right.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And I mean, it starts rubbing on some other territorial things when you start talking about when you start leaving people off. Like, okay, well, what about Mac Dre? What
Mhm.
about you
What
start
about
mentioning all of the Thiz
what about
Nation?
Mac Dre? What about Mac
What about
Mall?
Mac Mall? What about
What
Doobie?
about
What
La
about La
Russell?
Russell?
You
Yeah,
know.
all of them. But you can go on and on. But that's a great list. That's a great list. So her, E40, and Sly Stone, and honorable mention, let's say Confunction or Revival Center Ministries.
Yes. Gotta have a gospel. Gotta have a gospel.
Michelle, what don't you do? You got a guitar back there. You a writer. You a teacher. What don't you do?
I don't sleep.
That's
That's what I don't do.
real. That's real. That's dope. All right. If you were to give a TED talk today, what would the subject matter be? And what would you want people to get from that speech?
I would give a TED talk on diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging because it's such a taboo in education. And I would want people to realize that our people spoke out against things that were unjust and they took a chance and they didn't really care about anybody thinking that you should not be talking about it. And so I would amplify what people are trying to erase. And that's diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging because it is not the boogeyman in education. I might entitle it Amplify Our Voices, but I would definitely, that would be the theme of it and that would be the subject because I want people to understand without the diversity, without the quilt, without the bouillabaisse of diversity, equity, inclusion, of belonging in education, in our city, in our country, what are we here for?
Mhm. So just like you gonna hold me accountable to this book, I'm finna hold you accountable to a TED talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. You gonna be on the stage in the next 2 years and somebody TED talk talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, and amplifying your voice your way.
Okay, touche, sir, touche.
All right, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I think that's important to an important message to continue to carry. One theme that I continue to hear from you is not letting our history die, not letting our
Mhm.
history get erased, not letting it get washed, so to speak.
Mhm.
And I think that message in and of itself needs to ring, louder and louder in our community. Like, we have to be the protectors of our history. We
That
have to
part.
be the exposers of our history. We have to be the ones to make sure it doesn't die and disappear. Teach it to our kids, because the school system's not going to teach it to you.
Mm.
I talk to my son all the time, my youngest son, and about a lot of things that I know he's not learning in school. And then
Mhm.
every now and then I tell him something. He's like, "Yeah, they told me that in school," and I'm like shocked, like, "They did?"
Mm.
Yeah. And then he tells me about the teacher who was teaching. I'm like, "Okay, so
Mhm.
somebody's trying to impart a little bit, but we got to be the main drivers of that for our children.
It's so
So
true
thank
because
you for being a beacon.
I'm trying my best because I just know that my personal Black history, my mother and father, and our ancestors, my great grandmother, um, my Cherokee great grandmother, Julia Middleton, my maternal and paternal grandparents, our ancestors did not die for us to not use our voices. They did
Mhm.
not die trying to make sure that we had a voice to use for us not to use it. So we have got to amplify what was given to us.
Yeah, powerful, powerful. All right. Here's a scenario. Give me your response.
Uh-oh.
You are in the final year of your teaching career in high school. What impact do you hope to have left on that community, which is Pinole Valley High School? And what words would you leave for the educators that will remain in that community to teach those young minds that you're leaving behind?
Mm. The impact that I want to have in my last year is to make sure that somebody else is going to take my place. So I do have alumni who've become educators, who've become teachers, administrators, etc. But if I'm getting out of education and nobody's coming in to take my place, I've not done my job.
Mm,
So that would be something. And what I would tell them is give back what has been given to you. If you got something from me, give it to somebody else. If you got something from another teacher or from this institution, give it back. So whatever's been given to you positively, give it back to the next generation because that's what you're supposed to do.
mm.
Somebody gives it to you, give it back. So um continue to let that impact ripple through. Don't let it just sit there and say, I got what I needed, and then you just keep it for yourself.
Mhm.
So, number one, it's got to be somebody to take my place. Got to be someone that, whether or not, it doesn't always have to be an American Sign Language program. It could just be that educator who wants to make a difference in the school. It doesn't have to be in a particular genre of teaching, but I need somebody to take the place to continue those multicultural student unions, to continue to be the one that people feel safe coming to continue to be the auntie of the school. I need somebody to take my place. And you got to give it back. Somebody gave it to you, give it back.
You're creating an amazing legacy, Michelle. And those are powerful words to leave behind to educators that are going to be teaching the kids that you still care about, even though you're not there. Your words ring true all throughout this episode. You've talked about giving back. You've talked about making sure that, give back what you got, what you received. You've talked about the exposure that you've gotten and that you've passing that on. You talked about amplifying other people's voices, making sure their voices are heard. You talked about diversity and equity and inclusion, yourself being included in a lot of the things that your students are doing, whether they're African American descent or not. I think that is just your entire presence in that school and your entire presence in the community of diversity culture, deaf culture, neurodiverse culture, the authoring book writing. I just get a powerful sense of inspiration and encouragement from you. I don't even know how to. I'm trying to qualify it with something, but I'm I won't say impressed because I know who your parents are,
Mm,
So there's an expectation of greatness because you come from great parents.
mm,
But I'm honored to know Michele Lamons-Raiford and to have kind of grown up with you a little bit because you're making an impact in this world that not many people, decide to embark upon in when it relates to um, protecting the autistic community, providing for the autistic community, giving a voice to the autistic community. That alone, especially when it comes to our people, our race, Black, African
Mhm.
Americans, that alone is very, very, very powerful. For you to be on that soapbox, so I'm encouraged and I'm honored to know you and have you on this episode interviewing Michele.
Well, I sure appreciate it. You've blessed my soul. Just even, talking about what my father did for you is a blessing, and it warms my heart to know that it wasn't just in our house. That he
Yeah.
inspired and mentored. It wasn't just for us, it was for others. So to know that his legacy and his mentoring went beyond our house was really a blessing. So thank you for sharing that with me, because it made me feel really good about who I knew that my parents were.
Yes, yes, very true. And very very real feeling, very real honest feeling about your father and your parents. All right, we're getting to the very end. I got a couple more things for you, and then I'm gonna give you the floor to amplify your voice a little more.
Mm,
So I like to finish off the episode with a segment called "What's Your Rush,"
mm,
as in Mount Rushmore. And I
mm,
used to ask in this, for people, individuals who inspire you the most along your journey.
mm.
I imagine who one or two of them might be if I asked you that, but I'm going to give now. I'm asking it in this way: what are four people and or moments in your journey that have inspired you to be who you are today?
Mm. Okay, so people are going to be my parents, definitely. Um, my next one would be my husband. He's just my rock. A lot of the things that we've gone through would have torn up marriages, and he's just with me. He's my best friend. He's my rock. So my parents, my husband, my brothers, my surrogate family. The moment was the birth of my child. Having a second chance at motherhood really just birthed the mother in me that I didn't know existed. Everybody calls me, mom or auntie at school, but it's nothing like having your own. When you have a child this side of heaven, the birth of my son has really, really inspired me. And the last one is the negative that turned into a positive. That no was something that I needed to hear. It was something that I had to go through to get to the yes, and all honor to God for everything he's given me, all the blessings that he's had, all of the things that I was allowed to go through, because I don't believe any negative comes from God, but the things I was allowed to go through to see, what good can come from them. So my parents, my brothers, my husband, the birth of my child, that no was that push that I needed. And when you get that first book in your hand, there's no feeling like it. But when you get that first breath of life and you hear that cry from your child, this side of heaven, there's nothing like it.
Man, very, very, very powerful. The birth of the child, your parents, your brothers, and then that no, that moment of no. I mean, um, if you're watching, push through the no's.
Yes.
Push through the no's. No doesn't mean no. It just means not right now. It
That
just
part.
means not at this moment, not
Yes.
this time, not this attempt, not this submission. Do it again, retry,
Mm.
reaffirm, reset, whatever you got to do, but do not quit, do not give up, because if it's a voice that you want to get out, it's something that you want to have to people to hear, let it be amplified through your way, right?
Yeah.
Push it out your way. If they're not going to give you a seat at the table, create your own table, build your own table, and amplify your own voice. Michele, we're going to get out of here with this. I'm going to give you the floor, the opportunity to talk about anything you'd like to discuss. We've talked a lot about, you've provided a lot of inspiration, a lot of encouragement, and motivation in all the ways you've answered these questions. But this is an opportunity to share anything you want to, whether it's an inspiration, some words that maybe a question I didn't ask you that you want to, talk about something, or you want to promote your work, promote your book, tell people where they can find you. The floor is yours.
Well, you can find me on amplifyourvoices.net. You can also find me at Michele Lamons-Raiford pretty much on everything: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Threads, Blue Sky, everything. I'm all over social media. But I think I want to end this with just thankfulness and humility. I think that if someone wants to find you, they'll find you. So you don't really have to promote yourself, and you don't really have to, kind of sell yourself. And like you said, if someone's going to be impacted, it's going to happen. So I appreciate the floor. I appreciate the honor. I appreciate you inviting me here. I'm very thankful and humbled for this opportunity. People will be able to find me. I'll put it on my social media. But I also want to just end with thanks, because I'm not sure what made you start this, but what a blessing. I was able to go back and look at a couple. I grew up with Chad, and I looking at some people that I recognize on the Shelleys, and the people that you've already interviewed. And this is our city, and you are taking the itty bitty city and taking some people from this itty bitty city and just interviewing a whole bunch of Davids. And so I truly want to thank you for, I'm not sure if this was your dream, but thank you for revisiting your dream, because through you, you're not just amplifying Vallejo, California, you're amplifying our journeys, and that's tremendous. So one of these days, we need to flip it on you and interview you, and actually sit down and say, what is your story and what is your journey? Because that's going to be the catalyst of you telling your own journey. So you are very inspirational. I'm glad we got to reconnect, but give yourself a little pat on the back, because what you're doing is powerful, and it's going to be more impactful than you think. So humble beginnings, don't think about it. Okay, revisit your own dream and do exactly what God has called you to do, because this is extremely powerful. So I want to thank you for amplifying our city, and thank you for amplifying our journeys. And go ahead and put a little mirror up to yourself and just do it for yourself.
Wow. It's heartfelt. I feel that in my heart. So thank you very much, Michelle. I don't know the impact that I'm making. I just am trying to be obedient to the
Mm-hmm.
call. You know what I mean? And I know that if it impacts one, then I've accomplished the goal. If it impacts many, then so be it. But um, you're right. I don't know that this was my dream to begin with. I knew I've always wanted to inspire people. People.
Mm,
I've always wanted to impact people in a positive way. That's been my nature since I was a kid. I started giving speeches and stuff like that when I was like in 10th grade. I mean, when I was 10 years old. My mom made me give my 6th grade graduation speech at Elsa Wiedemann School
mm,
and elementary school. And ever since then, I've been kind of not afraid to amplify my voice, so to speak,
mm-hmm,
and to speak up even for others, because I kind of had to represent the whole 6th grade class there in
mm-hmm.
that. And so I don't know. It comes kind of natural to me. I was nervous to do it at first, but I felt like it was a vision that was, kind of God breathed into me, and
Mm,
I feel like it's in alignment with my spirit. It's in alignment with
mm,
who I am. Um, uh, I'm a dreamer myself, and I just want to encourage people to don't quit. Follow your dreams. I've seen so many people like yourself from Vallejo have made it. Tough circumstances have made it. That's how I know that anything is possible. All of the
yes.
people that's come out of our city that's done things, even yourself as a testimony, anything is possible. So revisit your dreams is all about those possibilities. And I
Mm,
thank you, Michelle, for being here, sharing with others their, presenting their possibilities to being an author, to being a great mother, a great wife, a great guitar player in the church ministry, a great author and publisher of books for help to help all people. So thank you for all that you do as an educator and a spearhead for positivity and diversity in your school. This has been another episode of Revisit Your Dreams. This episode was titled Let Your Light and Your Life Shine Bright for Others. My very special guest today was Michele Lamons-Raiford. Thank you, Michelle, for being here. And I hope that you will join us again on another episode of Revisit Your Dreams. And I think that means thank you in
it
sign
does mean
language.
thank you in sign language. Look at you.
I think that
Yes.
means thank you in sign language. So thank you all for being here. I want to remind you before we go, our episodes air on Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for everybody out there on the West Coast. Again, thank you, Michelle, for being here. This has been another episode of Revisit Your Dreams. One love. We
One
out.
love.
Revisiting my dreams with the king.
post on Facebook, and I said, "Oh, Michele wrote a book." And then I saw another one. I was like, "Wait a minute, this is a different book." Then I saw another one. I think I saw your amplifyyourvoices.net, like a kind of a promo or ad that you put out for that. And I was like, I went to it and I was like, oh, she a writer, she a author. She didn't just publish a book or two. Like she this is what she do. And then I started, looking through your profile a little bit, and I noticed you were, in education, and I didn't know the depth of it until I kind of read your bio a little further and looking at some more pictures on, Facebook. It's like, okay, yeah, you've been in this thing for a long time, and you really care about people. So let's go ahead and get into this episode, Michele. I'm gonna pause for a second. I'm gonna snap my fingers, and then I'm gonna go ahead and start. Okay.
Okay, hold on 1 second when you pause. Hold on.
And let me drink a swig of water too before.
That's why I said I didn't bring any water, but I'm all right.
Feel free to go. I could pause, and if you want to go get some, that'll be
Let me
fine.
grab a bottle just because.
No worries. Y'all hear that?
All right. That was quick.
All right.
Let me get off my other screen. All right. We all adjusting and some more.
Yep. All right. We're ready.
Yep.
All right.